Peace and blessings. Another beautiful day. Another beautiful day. So today I wanted to discuss a word that is often utilized, and maybe it's just me, but I don't think the word is being utilized to the full extent. So the word I'm thinking of is submission. So often you hear the word submission, it's often in reference to a woman in a relationship submitting to a man as doing what the man says to do, or following his orders, or basically just being acquiescence to his whim. However, I don't know if it's just me, but I don't hear enough about men having to submit too. Submission is a two-way street, and men have to submit too, right? If you're in a relationship, how is it that only one person is doing all the submission? You know what I mean? Even if you are the head of the household, king of the house, whatever, you have to submit in one way or the other. If there's just one person submitting, one person is in control, and where's the growth in that? So I think it's very important for us to discuss how men need to submit as well. And submission, first and foremost, submission is not just somebody telling you go sit your ass down and you just go sit down. That's not all it is, or that's not all it entails. Submission is also just going along with someone else's program, whether it's not necessarily what they say, but if a man is, let's say, constantly cheating on a woman or abusing her, whatever, and she stays with him, she has submitted to that behavior. I mean, she's submitting to him and his behavior, right? And on the other side of that, I would say submission from a man's standpoint, from a personal experience, I would say submission is more so a man, damn, it's crowded as hell, opening up to his woman, which is one of the things that I've always had an issue with. Okay, lady, so you can let me go. I'll just go, and this store is too crowded right now. So anyway, so submission should be a man willing to do things he's not necessarily accustomed to doing, or things he's not comfortable doing, because that is something his woman may want, or is for the betterment of the relationship, right? So a lot of times men, I can say myself, I can't speak for all men, but have been kind of closed off and pretty much a stranger in a relationship. A woman is literally sleeping with a stranger. You know some things about me, not everything. And being able to flip that switch and open up is not something that is not necessarily for the faint of heart. If you suppress so much like I've suppressed, I have several decades of suppression. You know what I mean? When you grow up being told not to cry, and you emulate men who have a certain version of masculinity, you feel that's the proper way to be a man, proper way to be masculine. And then on top of that, you have the generational curse where people are always telling you not to cry. You're a big boy, you're a man of the house, and things of that nature, when they're telling you all these things. However, they're not providing alternatives to that. If you tell a young boy not to cry, what are you telling him to replace that with? Or how are you teaching him to deal with those emotions? Most times people don't. They just tell him don't cry. And you leave that to a young boy to process in his head, in his mind. He got to figure out what to do, because you say don't cry. Crying is for girls and it's for women. And there's a lot of men or boys as well in prison because they weren't taught how to properly deal with their emotions. So when you constantly being told not to cry, you just hold it in, right? So now you suppress all these things, and then you just, one of these days, it's going to explode. And it also affects your relationships with women, because you don't know how to open up, or you don't know how to express yourself. Certain level of toxicity, and there's definitely a high level of toxicity when you don't tell somebody how to handle their emotions, or the only emotion that is applauded or acceptable is anger. So it's okay to wild out and put hands on somebody or act violently, but it's not okay to express sorrow and sadness. So I grew up under that, you know what I mean? And, you know, so going to funerals, not crying and things, you know, when you suppress these emotions have to come out. One way or the other, they have to come out. So when you suppress emotions, a couple of things can happen. One, you could just blow up eventually from suppressing so many things, and it's just, you know, compacted in. Or two, the things you suppress, those emotions you suppress, can become a personality trait, a character flaw. You know what I mean? We have to figure out how to control our emotions. You know, we have children, and I'm speaking to the men. We have children, we have women we're in relationships with, and, you know, if you're a man that doesn't know how to deal with his emotions, how can you be a leader? How can you properly guide someone? How can you be in a great relationship? And it's funny because we say women are so emotional and, you know, they crazy. However, they're getting their emotions out. And I believe it's a fear some men have, you know, they're going to act like what they call women, how women act. I mean, it's not for the faint of heart. Trying to come to terms with your emotions is something that I'm trying to do now. I'm getting older, and you know, I just want to see things differently. You know, knowing that you have a certain emotion, but you won't show it because you weren't taught, or you were taught that it was unacceptable to display that emotion. That's a sad thing. Very sad. You know, and it's definitely played a part in my relationships with women. And so it's definitely something I'm trying to work on. And it's not easy. It's a hell of a process. You know what I'm saying? Being aware of your emotions. And, you know, it catch you off guard sometimes. You know what I mean? So, but it's definitely something that we have to discuss, and we have to accept, and we have to start working on. Fellas, you know what I mean? There's so many of us out here broken, and, you know, it's not put together. You know, you're putting off a certain image or persona, but it's all a facade. You know? But it is something that we can accomplish. We must. Peace.